everybody. Come to the highlight of the day. There's the speeches. And before I start, not only is it Phil and Lisa's wedding today, I've got to say a big happy birthday to Catherine over there. Just a happy birthday to her. I'm not singing this on the microphone. Speeches. Now I want to introduce our very own Jean-Luc Descartes, Mr. Neil Vernon, and I'd like to stand up here to the microphone and make it so.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, the children. Good afternoon. And welcome to Browsholme for the celebration of my beautiful daughter, otherwise known as Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'd like to welcome anybody that's travelled a long way to celebrate with us today. I know we've got some people in from over the border. People, I believe, have travelled down from London. You didn't know, right? I'm trying to keep this true. Right then. Where can we start? Browsholme, what a place. Fantastic. I think you've done a brilliant job in organising everything. Everything's done to perfection. Everything's planned to the nth degree. And I think you've done a brilliant job. Absolutely brilliant. For days we've been saying, if we could just get dry, all day, we'll be happy. And what do we get? We get perfection. So that's down to you as well. Just watch out on your way home, because it's Lancashire's best kept secret, this. And you might see one or two unfortunate evening guests who didn't quite make it tonight. So if you see some souls wandering around the country lanes, just spare a thought for them. It just reminds me when I see something so well planned and so much attention to detail and absolute perfection that things have changed so much over the years with weddings. I've been doing wedding photography 32 years. I've done about 3 speeches in my life, so confident, not confident. And it makes me realise that things have changed so much. My old auntie, funnily enough, her name was Smith, she had 1 or 2 sayings. My family are panicking now because she had some on the edge sayings as well. I might have had a drink later, I might tell you this. And when she was talking about her wedding, she said that she was up the night before making sandwiches. And then, halfway through the night, she had to get up, turn them off because they were carbling on. And that's perhaps one of the ones that I can tell you. It's been a long time in the planning stage. I don't think a lot of you realise just how long it's been in the planning stage, because Lisa got a job at Danker Bride when she was 15. John and Joanne, great friends of ours, took her under the wing and showed her the ropes, and we know what you were doing. You're not telling me that you weren't planning this right from the start. We know now. And then 3 years later, she met Phil Smith. Now, first impressions are very important. I always think, and very often I can be wrong with first impressions. Can't I hope? Very often wrong with first impressions. But I quite liked Phil at first. I thought, he's a He's happy-go-lucky, polite, well-brought up, young man. He looked over to turn into a raging extrovert wearing a skirt. But, is he? We're pleased to see you, Phil. Looking brilliant. Now then, they've been together quite a while. Obviously, when people are together for a while, everybody starts to expect weddings. I think Lisa at first was a lot more keen than Phil was. But we knew she'd work on him, and we knew it wouldn't be a problem. And at first we thought, maybe 2 years, maybe start thinking about the wedding plans. So 2 years passed. What are we doing, by the way? John? 2 years. So we started thinking about wedding plans and nothing happening. They even talked about they were going to get married. So we thought, well, there's a start, we're on the right way. Nothing happened. Birthdays came, no ring. Christmases came, still no ring. So I thought, it's quite a long time this now. And we know that they'd even talked about it and they were our son Phil, who's the most laid back, let anybody do their own thing person, said, do you think he's ever going to ask her? So, anyway, ask her who he did. But the thing is, he set the standards, because Phil, in his own inimitable style, who thinks of every possible way to do things, didn't just do it like normal people do it. So now he's set the bar quite high. So anybody that's going to get married now, you've got to have car keys attached to the ring. That was absolutely brilliant, Phil. But the thing is, we only found out by text message a few months before. I got a text one night and said to Paula, you got a text? Who's it from? Phil Smith. What's he want? Wants to come round and see us, don't tell Lisa. This is it, I'm the cool one. I said, no, it might not be that. It might not be that at all. It might be something completely different. Inside I'm thinking, this is it. Anyway, that was. They got together and they've been solid ever since. And I know I'm supposed to offer advice to the newlyweds. And there's very little I can offer really, because they do things in their own inimitable style. They do things with so much class and so much grace that it's difficult to give you advice. One thing I will say to Lisa, keep injury circuits, because sports are very important to me. And Phil, don't get in the way of the daily phone call to Mom. More than your life's worth. Well, a little bit about Phil. What does he like? He likes golf. He likes good beer. He likes good food. He likes gadgets. He likes photography. He likes his circuit training. I thought, how the hell are we ever going to get on? But get on we do, and I'm proud of you, Phil, and you make a great son. We also got Norman and Trish. We're getting Maureen and Jim. We're getting Martin and Kate. We're getting Sophie and Phoebe. We're getting Phil and Ruby. Anybody else? And we're getting grandma. We're getting another grandma. And we're proud of you all. We really are. Not only are they just welcome as in-laws, you're true friends. It's good to have you on board.
Thanks, Neil.
My beautiful daughter. When I saw her standing there today, looking absolutely stunning, it just made me so proud. Obviously, I've done a lot of weddings, and I've always seen the bride before the bride's dad very often. And I said to them, if you don't get a tear in your eye today, there's something wrong with you. And I can say there's nothing wrong with you. So proud of her, not only for who she is and what she's achieved. When we saw her get a degree from Chris Bonington, no less. Very proud moment. I photographed the bride last week, who was absolutely stunning. But I've got to say she wasn't a patch on this young lady, as you'd expect. And that's without a hint of bias from the father of the bride. Back to Phil for 1 second. We know that he's a strong individual, both in and out. We know that he's going to look after Lisa. Not as strong as Martin, by the way, because we've seen him. We've seen him do arm wrestling. We've all been beaten up with lads. Phil, we know that you're going to look after our daughter. We know that you're strong both inside and outside, and you'll always protect her. Apart from if there's any wasps or spiders around. And you're on your own, kid. You're on your own. I think we've all seen the Phil Smith wasp dance. But protect our beautiful girl, you will. And as I was saying, we're so proud of Lisa. We know that she does such a good job at school as well, because things are piled on her. She's a governor. All sorts of extracurricular things that they know that they can rely on Lisa for. So we're proud of all that too. You're the best, in other words. Now, although we've all got on as a family ever so well, there are 1 or 2 occasions when Phil might think there's upsetting. One time was, we were driving back from St Ives, and Phil wasn't very well. Phil reminds me of my dad a lot, because whenever you ask Phil how he is, even if he's not feeling very well, he'll say, "Okay, thank you." So we're driving back from St Ives, and I'm looking in the mirror at Phil, and he's not looking too well. And I said, "How are you today, Phil?" "Okay, thank you." And I've seen getting a little bit paler and paler. "How are you, Phil?" "Okay, thank you." Confidence is going a little bit now. So, a bit later on, "How are you today, Phil?" "Rough." No, that's when you know Phil's bad. That's when you know Phil's bad. So we're batting along the motorway, and Lisa said, "I think you're going to have to wind that back window down." And so Phil was then sticking his head out like a basset. And he wasn't very well out of my car. And it was at this point that Lisa said, "Dad, do you think you better pull into the inside later?" Why do cars have pockets? Anyway, just to say another word about Phil, he was more concerned about my old golf than he was about his own well-being. And that's a measure of the man. Where are we now? I wish I wrote my readers. They're written bigger. Oh, there's another occasion as well. When he thought he might have upset me. We were all in town watching a football match. Phil and Claire, Phil and Lisa, and me. Polly doesn't like football. So she'll probably look after me, won't she? And they decided we were going to go on to a club. So Phil just had trainers on, and I had shoes on. So we swapped over, and I'm walking home like John Travolta, and I think lights them up every time they touch. They didn't really do that, but I had a few drinks and it looked like it. and Phil going off in my shoes. And they came back rather pebble-dashed. Now, the car incident was nothing to do with drink, but that was everything to do with drink. When you go out with Phil... Oh, yeah. That's in there. You should put me alongside him as well. When you go out with Phil, you've got to be serious about having a drink. How many Martin? You've got to be serious.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah. And so when Phil couldn't remember the last place they'd been to that night, I knew that there was good reason for my pebble-dash shoe. But forgive me for that as well. I'm clean for today. What's the last one to say? I've done the advice. I think it's maybe time.
That's it.
No, yeah. Maybe it's time, I think, if we raise our glasses to the wonderful bride and groom who are now the bride and groom, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And at this point, I'd like to introduce our tame groom. Some say he still wears his stag party outfit. That's pretty marvellous. All we know is he's called Phil Smith.
Thank you, Neil, for your kind words. I'd like to start with, on behalf of my wife and I, we would like to thank you all for being here today. We realise you all had a fair distance to travel, but it really wouldn't be the same without you. We'd also like to thank you for your lovely gifts and your kind generosity, which allow us to have the honeymoon of a lifetime. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all our parents for everything they have done and contributed to help today happen. I'd like to thank Paul and Neil for being so welcoming since day one. But I think the real reason Neil's been so welcoming since day one is because I still let him outrun me at circuit training. Seriously though, I could not ask for nicer in-laws. They are not only Lisa's parents and my new in-laws, but I also consider them great friends I enjoy spending time with. Thank you for bringing Lisa up to become the beauty that I married today. She is a real credit to you. On that note, you may know Neil and Paula have sacrificed going to St. Ives today to come to our wedding. Now, I bet it was a very tough choice to make whether to come here or to go to St. Ives. So I've got a little t-shirt for Neil to say thank you for choosing us over St. Ives.
Very nice, man.
I'd also like to thank my extended set of parents for always being there for me and supporting me and advising me as I've grown up. I feel very lucky and fortunate to have the parents that I have. Lisa married me today because of the way I am, and a lot of that is to do with how I've been brought up. So thank you. And we've got some gifts for the parents here. As for the ushers, Andy, Arnie, Mark, Phil Dodson and Phil Worden, thank you for all your help today with the wedding and thank you for being great friends. I had an amazing time in Poland and France and it wouldn't have been the same without you. If it wasn't for Hardy and Andy, I think I'd still be wandering around Poland in a drunken mess. So a big thanks for getting me home with the minimal amount of bruises. I also shouldn't forget that it was Mark that introduced me to Lisa in 2005, the 25th of May to be precise. Thank you, Mark. here is a gift to say thank you.
Keep it. Yeah. Put it on
Thank you
hold.
for organising an excellent stag do. Thank you for helping out today, and a massive thank you for always being there for your little brother. I couldn't ask for a better brother and best man. But I'll take this moment to quote myself from my best man speech at Martin's wedding. Martin loves to tell stories. Most of the time, he tells the full truth. Some of the time, he exaggerates to get his points across, and other times, he just makes everything up. Please remember this during the speech.
You so much. That's not a regular target.
I'd also like to say a massive thank you to Rebecca and the team at the Thai Barn for team for the stunning food. I think everyone's loved it. We'd like to say a huge thank you to Helen for helping organise the head today and for the lovely reading you did earlier. It was very touching and meant a lot. And a massive thank you for Claire for looking after Lisa last night and for organising such a great ending. The pictures and the video look absolutely amazing. I'd like to say a big thank you to Tim for helping out today with the video. It's much appreciated and we look forward to seeing it. And thank you to John and Joanne for the wedding outfits. Lisa looks absolutely gorgeous today in a stunning dress. She's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And the lads look pretty smart as well. Speaking of Lisa, I can talk about her all day, but I'll keep it to a reasonable length. As I said earlier, I met Lisa on the 25th of May 2005. We met in a pub to watch the Champions League final, and Liverpool were playing AC Milan. Now at half time, Liverpool was 3-0 down, and they went on to win the match. Now a lot of people say Liverpool were lucky that night, and a lot of people say they played brilliantly. Well, I think I was a lucky one, because I met Lisa that night, and I think I played my cards brilliantly, because after that night, Lisa got Abby to text me Lisa's number, just in case I wanted to call her sometime. I eventually did, in November.
November?
In the meantime, I was in the black hole one evening, and I was transfixed on this gorgeous bum walking past. And suddenly, it talked to me, it said, "It's Phil Smith." I was shocked, but surprised, and happy to see that it was Lisa. We spent the rest of the evening together, and had our first intimate moments.
Pardon?
We shared nachos. After a few texts, I called Lisa in November and went to pick Lisa up. I had to use sat-nav to drive about 100 metres down the road to her parents' house. We went to All Nels, had a walk by the canal, went for a drive, and spent the whole night chatting. It was a perfect night. Talking about chatting, Lisa can take this to the extreme, and she sometimes chats to me in her sleep. For example, why are we being guided in here? She's referring to guided reading at school. But some more recent ones have been, "I've not got the diagram." What diagram, love? The wedding diagram. And we could put little bonnets on you to make it a bit different. And one night she sat bolt upright in bed. "What's that dress doing?" She thought a wedding dress was hung up in her bedroom. Anyway, since the Old Nels night, we spend as much time as possible together, and I love every minute of it. Lisa, I love you with all my heart. You are a very special, beautiful, loving person, and I'm so glad you're all mine. I am so lucky. Thank you for marrying me and making me the happiest, proudest man around. There's a little saying I say, life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the number of moments that take our breath away.
Can you just quote a pitch, please?
Yeah, because it's a really great to quote. Lisa, you constantly take my breath away, and I love you. Please, can we all raise our glasses for my beautiful, stunning wife, Lisa? Before I pass you over to Martin, I'd like to say a big thank you to the bridesmaids. Thank you for getting Lisa here on time today, or nearly on time today. Having fun with Lisa on my head and do, and generally being a main part of our lives. Also, I think everyone will agree the bridesmaids look absolutely stunning today. Please can I raise a toast to the bridesmaids? We've got some more gift for you all. And now it's my good brother's turn to do his speech.
Thank you very much. Thank you, wife. There is. I need both hands for this as well. Yeah, I need both hands. Right then. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think that just about covers everyone. For those who don't know me, I am Phil's older, wiser, and rather wider Phil's new brother-in-law, Phil, has described me as the most unhealthiest person he knows. I probably am, to be fair. There's nothing wrong with a bit of variety between brothers. Now, anyway, so this wedding is taking place during the Olympics. So let's take a moment to consider what the Olympics actually mean. They remind us that as people we can achieve the most and reach the highest. They remind us how, whoever we are, we all share the same dreams and hopes, and draw to the same inspiring moments. And like Paul Radcliffe, they remind us still that when we're facing the biggest day of our lives, it's perfectly acceptable to poo our pants a little. But don't worry, little brother. I'm going to try a little not to be too harsh on you. So I should start with compliments. I have to echo what has already been said about our amazing bride today. Lisa, you look fantastic. And thank you very, very much for coming today as well. We also need to thank Lisa and her parents for the intricate planning and attention to detail today for this reception. However, Lisa, I must pull you up on one little thing today. You see, someone has left this little message under my little napkin today. It reads, "Dear Martin, muck this up, embarrass me, embarrass my family, swear or tell dirty jokes, you'll never ride a bike again." Now when I read this, I thought it was a little bit harsh, and it's actually split up the speech just a little bit. because it all consisted of swearing and telling dirty jokes. But I hope the person who's left this is happy now. In any case, I don't ride bikes, and I don't intend to either. Anyway, moving on. No wedding is complete without testosterone-ridden ushers and a pack of bridesmaids, and I'm sure you all agree they look beautiful. And so are the bridesmaids. But seriously, thank you very much to Sophie, Phoebe, Bridget, Mia, and little Ruby. So they're doing something. For the hard work today and keeping the new Mrs. Smith calm and collected. And thank you for looking so damn great. You're only eclipsed by our new Mrs. Smith. And also thank you to Hardy, Andy, Mark, and the two Phils. Over here, Phil W, Phil D. For doing an amazing job opening the chairs today. Right, I was really chuffed to be asked to be Phil's best man, as he has so many long-term and close friends. More importantly to me, he finally admitted I am the best man. From my perspective, I think I've done an amazing job so far. Firstly, I got here in time, and secondly, in these harsh economic times, I resisted not in sending these rings to cash for gold. Gold on me. And thirdly, getting me pretty sober. Don't underestimate this achievement, because many of Phil's friends will tell you how many times Phil has succumbed to the after effects of drink.
This is my Photoshop skills.
So where can I start? Well, I must admit, over the last few weeks, the last couple of days, I've been trying to search my vast mind for some stories to tell you about. Stories that would horrify Phil and make you all gasp in amazement. But as Phil has been acting as a covert sneaky git and a Mr. Peter Perfect in the eyes of my parents for the last 30 years, I've found it quite difficult to find the beefy stories suitable for today. But I do have a few. You see, there's some stories that I've been advised not to talk about, so not to tarnish Phil's impeccable reputation with his new in-laws. Oh well, maybe Phil will have to tell you about this someday. Was born on the 22nd of May, 1982, in Royal Reading Hospital. My mum had a horrendous delivery that lasted almost 3 days due to Phil's completely out of proportion ears. So large, in fact, a JCB digger was used to remove it. I was enjoying myself. I was enjoying myself doing what every 3-year-old loves doing, eating and filling an appy, blinded anyway. When little Philip arrived, ready at that point to start winding me up. Phil's birthday was always before mine, since mine's on the 1st of August, and it's a John Smith if anybody wants to buy me a late birthday drink. Meant he got his presents first. So at a young age, I find this really unfair. Anyway, one present I'll always remember was Phil's Playmobil train set. There you go. put all the stickers on and all that kind of stuff for him. I had to help him because my brother shares the lack of hands-on skills and has the dexterity of a horse, just like my dad. I spent valuable time building this train set up for Phil, when I could have been building a Lego extension for Mum and Dad's house. So once set up, Phil wouldn't let me play. So I did not agree with this, so I had to let him know who's boss and give him a swift dig. Phil retaliated with a harsher dig. Then I decided to throw him across the room. So because of Phil winding me up, I got into deep trouble. Obviously, Dad would return home from a hard day's work to find us in out of Rocky and my mum going mental. My behind took a rather long trip down the hallway that evening with the help of my dad's right foot, left or right. You see, this kind of thing continued to happen throughout our childhood. Phil would usually wind me up and stupid me would rise to it, resulting in me getting told off big time. See, Phil has this sneaky little part to his nature where his comebacks will go over the top. Give him a dig, you get a hard one. Slightly kick him, you get a roundhouse kick. I once set fire to his arm with deodorant, thinking that he wouldn't get me back, but then he just stabbed me in the arm with a nail file. But it wasn't always like this though, because we did get a lot Anyway, moving on. I'm editing on now. Right. Anyway, whilst growing up, we never went to pubs together. We got mindless and beer. We were quite well behaved for brothers. But I will never forget our first drinking session whilst on holiday in Cyprus. Phil and I decided to go for a bit of bullying down the bar street in Paphos. We were there, started to get settled into a night of drinking, and we were getting quite compelled with the bar staff, getting free drinks and stuff, and all was great. Phil was, anything without facial hair or with the skirt on, and I was having a great night watching Phil go off and doing a bit of wording. This was all result in Phil coming back disappointed and obviously rejected. Anyway, we carried on drinking, and whilst I was waiting for my moment to ask this girl if she wanted to drink, Phil gets up, slumps right across the bar, and purges his meze all over it. And we're talking a good 5-foot coverage. This was an inconvenience. Surprisingly enough, we were asked to leave. We went outside, Phil was suffering from helicopters and salty water. And the barman kindly gave Phil a glass of water to sort him out. And Phil decided to swill his mouth out all over this guy's nice car. And this guy turned out to be the barman, the bar owner actually. Great. So I made the executive decision to put Phil in a taxi and send him home and deny even knowing him. So I went off pulling. And guess what? Dad and Trish told me off and not coming back with him. Typical.
You were supposed to be looking after. 16 requests.
This is why I was slightly concerned when Phil told me that Krakow was going to be the stag destination. Shortly after a vodka tasting, his drinking skills failed him completely. His night ended quickly when he left the bar, chased by Harding and Tom, ran a full circle and fell flat on his arse. Harding kindly took him home. But at least Phil did stand up to the vodka drinking challenge, not like his mates over there, who were hiding the little vodka drinks behind different objects. I am very disappointed. There we go, there's our little picture. I'm not too sure what the hell I had to do. At the end of his stag do, though, I have never seen anyone to be so grumpy while suffering from a hangover. Phil, when ill and hungover, is horrendous, and mixed with his immense stubbornness, he becomes unbearable. Anyway, Phil continued to grow into his ears. Eventually went on to college and went to university, where he got a degree in pen pushing and stapling. Whilst at Manchester University, he also gained a degree in bunketing. And he also got an MA in the skill of, wait for this, producing sunlight out of his house. He also took further vocational studies in the art of doing nothing wrong at all. But this really gave him the foundations of the man we all know well today. Quite an achievement, really, since, in his words, I only got a degree in drawing cars. Mind you, this is for the in-laws, don't be fooled by Phil's apparent amazing intelligence, because it only takes one discreet view of Google and Wikipedia on his phone, he will trick you into thinking he is Stephen Hawking. Don't see that next, I love that picture. It took me ages. And again. However, before going off to university, Phil and a few friends, Harding and Mark and Andy, all decided to go on a road trip across Europe. Now, as Phil knew nothing about cars, and at that point he'd only travelled as far as his moped would take him, usually as far as Blackpool, I was concerned about his adventure he was about to take. But my concerns were realised when he arrived at my dad's house with this thing. This thing was named The Beast. Look at that. Basically, this thing was so crap, it actually became slightly cool. I found this thing hilarious. Now, Phil asked me and Dad if he wanted to go around the block in it. Well, I went into the house and got a paper bag, put it on my head, and off we went. The reaction of people was amazing. Going past KFC and Cleveland's, watching pieces of chicken fall out of people's mouths in amazement at the sign of this thing just drove past. Are you impressed by this, Philip? Because I am. You can all do that on an iPhone, right? So off they went down to the south of France. Spain, Switzerland, and Monaco. Is that right? And much to my amazement, they actually made it. And Phil seemed to enjoy himself. Maybe a bit of soul searching went on, and Phil tried to discover himself before officially entering adulthood. Now, whilst on this trip, he liked showing off his rather large sausage. Especially now, I think things might have happened between Phil and Harley in this trip. I'm looking at this picture. But it must have been quite traumatic for Harley, because shortly after this trip, he lost all his hair. You see, point was a bit of a liability. He has come home with some pretty shocking school reports, received black eyes for fighting on a bus, and there's a few more that I could tell you, but due to various legal reasons I cannot discuss them. He's also crashed his first car whilst on the M62 and he fell asleep. At least I crashed my cars wakefully. Now, Phil was not so far to be fully grown into his ears and becoming quite a sensible person, almost too sensible, whilst I continued being a general idiot. When I hit the prime age of 16, Phil was 30. And I was introduced to the world of singing and alcohol, and Phil started a quest into becoming Bruce Lee. Soon he was kickboxing for a local team, and this was a good enough reason to stop beating him up. As I would come worse off. Phil, unlike me, takes his health very seriously and continued his kickboxing for a number of years. As he grew up further, obviously he grew a little bit soft and went on to do cardio workouts. After a number of years of training, he was entering the London Marathon the last year. Now, I was immensely proud of him doing this. It's something that I could never imagine doing in my wildest dreams. You see, exercise for me is going up the stairs and doing things that are not suitable to discuss during a wedding speech. He showed great dedication in this, but gladly, his ears didn't seem to affect his overall drag factor, and he completed it in a respectable time. He also raised a lot of money for the charity Cry, partly because people thought he was dressed up as Dumbo. What?
You pull a cheek once now.
I know, shit. Anyway, Phil also takes a lot of consideration over what he eats. Phil has a perfect BMI percentage, whatever that is, and mine is the same as a pork pie, he tells me. His diet horrifies me. He's obsessed with something called fat. Never heard of it. So to be on the safe side, he now shares the same diet with his rabbit. Phil's always been funny with his food. At a young age, he would eat nothing but ham sandwiches, which had to be on mighty white bread, or he would go mental. Weirdo. But no matter how much he eats, if he consumes anything from an udder, it has a real bad effect on him. You see, all this being cared for with the food is basically a waste of time. He suffers from various allergies. He really needs to follow my footsteps as he gets older. See, the only allergy I seem to suffer from is a fat ass. And that isn't really a problem. His past jobs... His past jobs while growing up has also been very interesting over the years and somewhat ironic. He started as a pot wash at Barton Grange. Funny really, as he has no concept whatsoever of tidying up or cleaning, ask my mum. Then he went to work in a tool shop in Preston, where he knows nothing about tools or anything hands-on. Phil, being Phil, obviously winged it. Then he went on to being an eBay con man. Selling crack toys from China. Later, Dad saw potential in it for some reason, and soon was working for Beach Display, where he pretends to type all day, talk about financial things, and pretend he knows what he's talking about. This was only possible because we have a very fast internet connection, so Wikipedia and Google are never too far away. Phil, over the years, has shown us some questionable fashion choices, but not as questionable as his taste in music. I was using this car recently and I put my CD collection on only to hear classics like Agadoo, Superman, and the Birdie song. Like his hairstyle, his taste in music is very dated. And whilst I'm talking about his hair, he's also kept most of it. And he's not seemed to suffer from the the Smith hairline disorder that I'm currently suffering from. Now, let's go. I reckon Phil's actually bald now. And the only thing helping him out is his gel. For long as I can remember, it's that his hair stuck to his forehead. It's like it's permanently bonded to his scalp. This is the reason he goes mental like a girl when he touches his hair. But the downfall of this anti-balding remedy is that you have to walk around looking like Bart Simpson. But the only thing we really have in common is that we're great brothers. Brothers that will do anything for each other, look after each other in the bad times, and have a bloody good laugh in the good times. And I'm dead proud to be his best man and older brother. Who knows the smart ass? And now my little brother has reached 30 this year, and now fully grown into his ears, he has done the right thing and married Lisa. Now, since being with Lisa, he's really become a truly grounded man, and I really look up to him for what he's achieved over the years. That was quite serious, that, Phil. And I wish you both the best happiness in the world, and I'm certain that Phil will make a great dad and husband. And I'm glad he's made the right choice in choosing Lisa to be his wife, because as time goes on, she'll probably keep me in line, which will be a good thing, as I'm probably worse than the worst pupil at school. Thank you. And I look forward to you both having kids, and for me to be the Uncle Buck figure in life. In years to come, you'll be able to determine at ease who are Phil and Lisa's kids and who are mine. Mine will probably be setting fire to each other with deodorant, and Phil and Lisa's will be sat there quietly reading the book on calories with sunlight emitting from their behinds. A skill passed on by the dad. But when we both grow old, and when we're celebrating our own kids' weddings, I will always remember Phil as my freckly, little, annoying brother dressed as a Mexican. And maybe for some reason as a witch. What is that all about? Anyway. I'm sure Dad touched my shirts like that. Anyway, I'm going to end this speech with my secret to marriage. And it consists, very simply, of 3 words. It is, yes, my love. Use this phrase and everything will be easy, trust me. But since you're a piece of perfect, you probably know that already. But thankfully for you lot, I really need to go to the bathroom, which is over there. And before I do, and if you're all still awake, I would like to all raise your glasses and your arses to a couple I love very much, the bride and groom, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And before I go, Philip decided to show some pictures of my stag do on my wedding day, and I'm going to do the same. So that's it. Tom, you see this? Look at my laser. Look at my laser. Observe the laser. Loser.
Timmy.